So did Bungie just lie about this dedicated PvP team? I don't know about you guys, but almost like 2 years ago, Bungie went on this entire hiring spree. I mean, they've been bought out by Sony now for $3.3 billion. They've been going with all these other franchises and things that they want to do and make TV shows, games, you name it. And yet 2 years ago, or a little over 2 years ago, they talked about having this dedicated PvP team for their biggest game right now, which is Destiny 2. And yet, if you look at the state of PvP, really not that good. Where are the new maps? Where are these extra modes? Now, I get it. Things take time, obviously. You got to make the maps, the environments, the whole 9 yards. I was part of the, players who helped DICE back in Battlefield 4 days make that community map. You guys remember that community map that was made back in the day? And they showed us how things were made and everything. So I know that it took a while. It took like 4 months or something like that for them to make. But that's 4 months. And that map is definitely bigger than your average Destiny map. And it's been 2 years and we've gotten 1 new map, maybe 2 old maps returning. So what the heck is going on, Bungie? Where is all of this PvP stuff that you promised us or that you're talking about and everything like that? Like, if you're not gonna dedicate something to PvP, then I guess stop it. I know PvP is part of the game and everything like that, but what then confuses me even more is the fact that the last 2 TWAs before the end of this year, one of them discussed a ton of PvP changes, including competitive play, including all these different ranks and everything like that. So I wanted to talk to one of our local Destiny players. He's actually part of the 5-9 team here. He streams on our 5-9 Twitch channel and everything, so make sure you give him a follow if you haven't already. I interviewed him essentially, and I talked to him because he plays Trials every weekend that it's available. He's hardcore PvP. He's taught me a lot over the years as we played together, and he's done an amazing job. But I wanted to ask him, is this going to be enough to save PvP, or is there just no point, and should Bungie just abandon ship on it? Or should Bungie just focus on the yearly expansions, make the seasons better, and forgive out PvP? Or have a separate team, actually have a separate team, and make something completely different that's just totally new game? Don't have to worry about the PvE stuff and not having to split this and say it does this in PvE, does this in PvP, and just focus on something like that. I mean, we know they're making some new PvP content in some other game. We just have no idea when it's going to release. So without further ado, guys, let us know your thoughts down in the comments. Do you think PvP in Destiny is dead? Do you think Bungie lied about having a dedicated PvP team? Or when they said dedicated team, it really meant like 2 people and that was it? Or do you think the new updates coming in 2023 are going to be enough to save it and make it relevant again? Let's get started. All right, guys, just like I promised, here he is, the one, the only, the PvP king, and sometimes bit of a dickhead, Ken. What's going on, man? Welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me. Hello. Enjoying my time here tonight.
That's good. And by the way, guys, that whole dickhead thing, it comes from a place of love. Ken and I have been doing Trials for what, almost a year and a half now, 2 almost, essentially. Something like that. He has taught me a lot. He really has. But it's always funny listening to either your chat or the story you've told me where people have just been like, man, you're so mean when you teach me and everything like that. It's like, well, sometimes you have to do that when it comes to Trials. And I've definitely made a ton of mistakes when it came, especially when we first started. I would hope to think that I have improved, but at the same time, maybe there's still some things I can work on. Ken can easily vouch by that. But anyway, regardless, I thought I'd bring him in here. The dude literally does PvP every weekend for Trials. He does carries. He does, matches with people in groups and everything like that. So make sure you check him out over on Twitch. He, again, does a lot of great, awesome streams there. So, but I wanted to get his takes on this stuff because, again, this is someone who has been playing PvP, especially in Destiny 2, for a long time and has said a lot of the stuff that either is potentially here or has the potential to be here, or maybe is not here and he's rolling his eyes at it. So, Ken, my first question to you is, when all of this news broke, and the first thing that kind of popped up when you and I were talking about this was Trials, obviously, because this is what you do a lot. So what are your thoughts on the 2 brand new Trials weapons that are coming in season 19? It's season 18 right now as of this time of this recording, but season 19 is right along the horizon. So what are your thoughts on seeing that two new trial weapons are coming for season 19, but 2 more are being taken away? Do you think this is going to be good? Is this going to be a way to bring back the PvP players, or maybe a good chunk of them? Or do you think this is not going to make a difference at all? Let me know your thoughts.
So I think the process they have right now where they bring in 2 and take 2 away, that's so they don't oversaturate, and they can keep the rotations of the weapons very smooth, right? You wouldn't see certain weapons more than once a trials season, right? More than once each season. So the process is good. Will it bring more people to the game? It depends on the weapon. It always depends on the weapon. So we know a hand cannon's coming, and we'll just right there. We knew a hand cannon is coming and a machine gun is coming. No one's probably looking at the machine gun at all. We use Xenophage in PvE, and then outside of that, right now it's linears, baby. Break out your linears. So
yeah,
what's the point of a machine gun?
Yeah.
The hand cannon, however, for PvP players, we all drool over it. Right? It's a hand cannon. It's a 140. People are probably going to want it. Now it depends on what roles can we get with it. Is it good right away? Is it even good for the meta? Because sidearms are still really, in the spotlight. So I'm sorry. I got to be bleary on this one. I think the weekend the hand cannon shows up and possibly the machine gun, the player base will be high the first time.
Right.
But that's just a temporary spike, right? That's that's like opening day for Endgame, right? We all went there, but did they keep them numbers, going forward? How many times did you see it again, right? Probably not.
Not the greatest. So based off of that then, so one question I did want to kind of bring up, but it's more of a side question, doesn't relate only to the 2 new weapons in Trials, but maybe it does relate to Trials in a way, is what do you think is a way that they could incentivize more people to come back even after getting all of the weapons, right? I mean, as someone who does Trials carries and everything, and someone who has played with you for a long time when it comes to Trials, we have all of the weapons from there. Do we have every single perfect god roll? No. Well, maybe you do, but I definitely don't. But overall, I don't feel like I need to have some uber god roll that instead of having a reload masterwork, I have, a ranged masterwork or something like that, right? Like I've got the god roll, but I've only got a different masterwork. It's just like, okay, whatever. That doesn't make much of a difference 9 times out of 10. What is something you think that could be a way to bring people back or keep people coming back, whether it's every season or maybe every couple months or something like that, or whatever the case is? What are your thoughts on that?
There are many ways they can do that, and they've done that throughout the course of Destiny 1 and 2, but I'll stick with mainly 2 because this is where it's more relevant. They do it in PvE all the time, right? They do it with freshness. New raid or even a D1 raid comes to D2, right? It's a new experience for players that did not play D1, which I see that more and more. I never played it in D1, or I played it, but it was a billion years ago. Let's go play it again, right?
Right.
So the freshness comes back, right? And then the loot that comes out of it, you can craft with Kingsfall right now. You can craft the Kingsfall loot. You're gonna craft the DSP or whatever that raid is, the space raid. You're gonna be crafting this Deep Stone Crypt. Yeah, you're gonna be crafting that raid loot soon, and then the exotics. So there are many ways they can do it outside of exotics. They have things from the Eververse shop, so they have cosmetics, right? So what are some of the ways they can incentivize people to play Trials, right, and come back? Is I think the main attraction should be an exotic weapon that drops once a year. And it needs to be good in PvE and PvP. Like it has to. So this is, if it can, Bungie calls me up. Ken, what should we do with an exotic weapon? Whatever you do, make it have perks for PvE that are really, really good and perks for PvP that are really, really good. Give it a lifespan of a year until the next one shows up, right? And now we kind of work, now we have the main attraction and give it a drop rate like the raid, right? If you run the raid, the more you complete it per week, and it's locked per week, right? The more you complete it, the higher the chance goes up. For Trials, it's a little different. You just hit the chest, you go flawless. So potentially someone could sit there one weekend and go, 100, 150, whatever the number would be to guarantee it to drop, right? So not everyone's going to do that. That means the majority of people will still want to come back for that exotic, right? That's the main attraction. So they have a year to work on that, right? Then what else? Exotic emote. They have ships. They have the speeder and the ghost already, right? we already have things in place that they do regularly. They just don't do it for PvP. They did it for comp when Survival came out, you know, the Not Forgotten Luna's Hell, the Revoker, and the Mountaintop, you know, and they weren't even exotics, but people went for them.
Right.
So the precedence is there. It's just they've, you know, now that we have the weapons, we're going to get 2 new weapons, right? So 2 weeks, maybe 4 weeks out of 9 weeks. And it's only the first 2 weeks when they show up that the player base may be high, and then they won't really go in. So
okay,
those are the things, you know, I'm looking for. And again, it doesn't even have to be weapons. It can be other things, cosmetics, you know, and, you know, flair and stuff like that. You know, people like to show that off. They like to collect those things, triumphs.
Right.
Right. So,
and I just want to say to our audience real quick that I believe Ken is still personally mad at me for having that Sparrow and ship when he doesn't, or he doesn't have the ship. I don't remember which one it is.
I finally got the ship. It was a couple weeks into the season I got it. I was like,
finally got it. Okay, he's behind, but he finally caught up. He finally got it. So
took me a season, and again, if I wasn't doing helps, right, and I was just playing with my friends, I would have still been hitting up the game every weekend for that ship.
Right, exactly. So that kind of proves your point right there, that even if he wasn't a streamer, even if Ken here wasn't doing carries or anything, you know, he'd still be trying to go for it, right? Because he got salty when he heard that I got it. So
so many people were getting it. I was salty.
Yeah. All right. So moving away then from Trials explicitly, we can still mention it and bring it up if it relates to it and everything. But one thing that dropped in the TWAB, and again, if you want to catch the full breakdown of all of this stuff, we have a basic detail guide on it on our channel already. Lil Bobby did a great deep dive into it. But one thing that was brought up was Fireteam-based matchmaking. Do you think this is something that's going to work? On paper, I think it has the potential to work, but obviously practice is always very different. So give me your just raw personal thoughts. What are your thoughts on this?
This is I've been talking about this for a long time. So they had freelance come out. So yes, I got to talk about Trials. They had freelance come out, right? And when freelance weekends would hit, the non-freelance pool would be rough, right? Mm-hmm. And the freelance pool would be relatively easy. Now, it was depending on the person and the experience. Some people would, I can't do freelance, Ken. I'm here with you. I'm like, okay. And then I could do freelance, but you know, I have a tougher time in the team-based matchmaking of 3s or more. So will this work, and what are my thoughts on it? I'm not sure it's going to change anything, to be honest. At first, I was like, we shouldn't have freelance because it's dividing the pool. But if you sit there and think about it, right, we're going to remove the pool of freelance. So it's just going to be trials. You're going to launch it. And if you're solo, you should match solos. So it's almost like you're still in the freelance pool with the occasional, well, can't find anyone, here's a duo, good luck. Or here's a trio, good luck, right? And you get stuck with maybe your solos or maybe a duo teammate on your team, and it's like nothing really changed, right? Right. So the thing that I'm going to come back to again is, you know, the player base and how to increase it. The smaller it is, the harder it is to do anything with matchmaking as far as getting it to be more skill based and have people on the same level, or even, you know, right here where the pools are coming together, but it may not even change. I'm kind of on the fence right now whether it's even going to make a difference or not. From where I was, freelance shouldn't be there. Just if I'm solo, just match solos. It should be just like that. But then if you think about it, it's the same, right? It's just going to turn out, it just seems like the same on paper.
Right. And I think you've also already kind of covered this a little bit, seeing as this kind of leads into our next couple of questions, was how does this affect players who only prefer to do solos? Because regardless of how you like it or not, or if, you know, I definitely did see a lot of streamers and a lot of hardcore PvP players saying that they didn't like the solo queue because it does split the player base and everything, but a lot of people enjoyed it and everything. So with the removal of the flawless pool, and how is this affecting solos, it seems to be up in the air to see how well Fireteam-based matchmaking actually works. Because if it works the way that both Bungie describes it and the way we basically think it is going to work, we're a little hopeful, but at the same time, it could make things not really change. You know, technically, again, the flawless pool is being removed, and essentially, if you select, you know, yourself just being as a solo player, 9 times out of 10, the hope is that you would get matched up with just simply other solo players. But if it goes for too long, they've already stated that yes, you have the chance, a very small chance, according to their words, that you'll get matched with either duos, or you'll get matched against a 3 stack and have 2 other solos, or maybe you'll get paired with another duo against a 3-stack or something like that, correct?
Yes, they did state that in the TWAB. So again, so the question, how does that affect solos? Someone came in, after they Ken, what do you think about the TWAB? And I said, well, doo-doo. Like I think about every TWAB. It's probably not gonna, but they told me there was so much in it. And when you had DM'd me the other day, I said, well, this must be big. And I started looking at it while I was eating my banana split. I'm like, this is something I need to look into. So
right.
Someone came to me and said, well, they're afraid it's gonna ruin their experience. And I sat there and I said, it could ruin the solo player's experience, because they could play, you have to win 7 games without a blemish on your card. You have 1 chance to do that. So it's 8 games. They could get 2 out of 8 games be a loss because they played against a stack of 3 and then 3 solos that they didn't want to use game chat, right? Even though it's an option. And even if they did, they don't have the synergy that when you're running a team of 3, you're playing with friends. So you kind of know how you're going to play. If you're running with against a team of 3 and 2 are helping a third, you got 2 people that usually have good synergy with each other to even do that, depending on the skill level of the third person they pull in, right? So you're still going up against a mountain at that point, is what it feels like. So however, that's just the fear, right? So they could run into, we're gonna get 2 losses every 8 games. Sucks, and that ruins it for that. But it sounds like, and again, this is a wait and see. It sounds like Bungie, the solo players are probably gonna come out on top, because if it goes the way I just said it a moment ago, it's almost going to be like freelance is always around, right? So now where the people that, like me, it's like, oh man, the pool, the regular pool of players is tougher because we're splitting the player base. So we're not getting those solos that don't have a team. Maybe they're, a little bit on the below average side, that we should have easier games. At the same time, we're, if we're not going to match make them as often, it's going to be like freelancers there all the time. Right. So this could actually be a good thing for solo players. And looking at it like that, it may get more, and I'm all about getting the player base to increase, even at the expense of my own experience to a degree. So if I have to play the same 10 people all the time, I would say that's horrible, right? For anyone. But if we're going to get more people that want to play solo and they're going to have a better chance of going flawless, Bungie's goal was always to get more people to the lighthouse, but not hand out the rewards that they've said. They don't want to hand it out, but they want more people to go flawless. That's why they started, with the flawless pool week 2. They're like, we want to see more numbers go flawless. Now they cared about it,
Do you think it is unreasonable to guess? I'm taking a wild guess here that maybe a potential hope of them, as this kind of a side note, would be that the more people they bring in first, just simply doing it solo, that maybe eventually they'll start to build fire teams themselves and start to do more of those duos or trios to work with the fire team based matchmaking? Or do you think that's kind of a pipe dream and it's probably not going to happen?
I mean, it's definitely something that could happen. You can't rule that out. I just think matchmaking is not the first and foremost thing to get players into the game mode. That should be an aftermath of getting players into the game mode, right? So the allure should be the loot and the rewards, right? And then it's easier to get everything to work with matchmaking, because if you're working with 100 people and 75 of them are just grumpy old men, you're gonna have a hard time, seating grumpy old men at the wedding, right? Versus thousands, right? So in my eyes, it's player base needs to go up with incentive. Then we work on how matchmaking works, so everyone has a enjoyable time, because the fun's going to be there because more people are there. They're not seeing the same sweaty people, and now the matchmaking's more fair, right? And they can get the loot, and then we go from there. So it's possible. It's possible. This could also just be a design with coding. It could be like, well, we want to remove the freelance pool because they're just condensing things, and it just made sense to remove that too, because they're condensing so many things in PvP, right?
What do you, now as somebody who has obviously played this for a long time and everything, in terms of the sandbox that is currently going on right now, we've obviously had sandbox changes throughout the months and throughout the years, and at least online, and I know it's not exactly the greatest place to find the thoughts and opinions and everything sometimes, because the internet essentially. But a lot of people are not the biggest fan of the sandbox, whether it has to do with the in-air accuracy changes that they made or anything like that, or the current sidearm meta that we're currently in right now. Do you think there needs to be some kind of either small or big changes to the sandbox currently right now to maybe make that more fun and appealing? Because we can have fun loot, at least in my personal opinion. Maybe you disagree. Tell me your thoughts. In my personal opinion, you can have great loot and everything, and to an extent, people will try and grind through it to try and get it and everything. But if the sandbox, I feel, is not exactly particularly fun to be in, I think a lot of people are still going to say pass on it. What are your personal thoughts?
I definitely agree with the latter part. There are so many people out there that I've come across throughout all of my years on Twitch and in Destiny where, hey, Trials is this weekend. You gonna play? I don't play Trials. Why? It's not fun to me, but it's great loot. I don't care. Right. More so because it's PvP. Like PvP is met with more of that scrutiny, right? So the fun must be there. So that I'm gonna use. I love using analogies, Tallen. I always use them. Hopefully this isn't a poor one, right? We're gonna go with a house, right? You're in the kitchen, right? And you have a table that you want to put in the kitchen. Right. There's a hole in the middle of the floor. You can't put the table in the center of the kitchen where you would like because there's a hole there. So you must always work around the hole. That's kind of like PvP for me. In my eyes, we're always working around this big, great, dumb hole that Bungie has in the foundation of their PvP. I think it needs... The sandbox is a reflection of everything else, but the foundation, I would say, is for a long time the maps, right? Every time we have a problem, maps and ranges, and let me give this, I've said this, people have heard this on my stream many times. We take a square box, right? Or we're gonna design a game level, right? You could do this on a pen and paper. You put a square, right? A perfect square drawn on a piece of paper, right? That's any map, any map in the game, or any new map, right? So we'll make it a regular one. What was last weekend's Trials map? Here, the burnout. We'll go with the burnout, right? So the burnout comes up. It's like, all right, this map's name is the burnout. Let's say the map size is from side to side, from any side of the square. It's 100 meters, right? Because Destiny ranges their weapons by meters. Right? It's 100 meters. And then you start filling it in. Walls, obstacles, ledges, little platforms, right? You fill the map in. And every possible place, except for very obscure, out-of-the-way, niche areas, everything is within 40 meter of range. If two people were to fight at the furthest possible spots, it would all be within 40 meters, right? Now, all weapons, let's say every weapon has the same... doesn't have damage fall off until 45 meters. So you see where I'm going with this?
Right. Yeah, I see.
Exactly. So if every weapon is always in its intended range, you can't really balance that sandbox of weapons and be like, well, let's nerf the sidearms and because something else is going to be overwhelming, because the maps are designed in a way where everything works for every point of engagement. So I think, and it may be too late in Destiny's lifespan, they say it's 2-3 more years, something like that. It could go beyond that. I don't remember anymore, but it needs to. They need to start from the ground up. They don't have to stop Trials like they did with Trials of the Nine, but we need maps for that are well balanced, that allows people that like to use these weapons, and these weapons on these maps, 2 different areas. So it's like you section off the maps in 3s, and it's like, okay, if you go over here, close range weapons are great. You go over here, long range weapons are great. Here's medium range weapons. Now, how do you get people to play? How do you balance that? And they already have the system in place. It's zone control Trials that people don't truly like, and they would have to tweak this going forward. But zone control, it's like, all right, the flag over time, everyone congregates there for the most part, right? So it just randomly shows up to one of those 3 spots. So if hey, I like using medium range weapons, the flag's there this time, cool. And that's my that would be my idea that I would pitch to them. Hey, try this. So it has to be from the ground up. Like everything needs to get changed, because they can't. The sandbox, we're just always shifting that table around that hole at this point. Long story short, right? So
do you think part of this has to come from the fact that they're trying to do this PvE and PvP thing, when maybe Destiny from the beginning should have had both PvE and PvP, but whatever happens in PvP is its own thing, and then PvP is completely separate or something like that. Whether you can, even if you go into PvE and you grab, let's say, some auto rifle or something like that, for example, right, and you try to bring that into PvP, and going into PvP, no matter what, that PvE weapon that you grabbed only has particular types of these stats for PvP, and it's never going to change or anything like that. Because back in, I believe when Destiny 2 originally started, they didn't have the whole this works this one way in PvE and this way works one way in PvP. And now they've kind of been doing that, where you see it in the TWABs and all these data mines and everything like that, where it's like, oh, in PvE this is doing 10% more headshot damage, but in PvP it's not doing anything different, right? Do you think this is kind of hurt Destiny in a way, or do you think that is what makes Destiny unique, and they just need to be able to find a way to, I guess, do better in terms of that type of balance?
It's tough. I don't think that the reason we have PvP and PvE and it's intertwined within the core functions of the game, the reason why one works well while the other doesn't, so to speak. I mean, one just takes more time and attention. The other one, does it run? Yes. Can people finish it? Yes. That's PvE. PvP is always ever changing because players come and go, right? Teams come and go, so it's going to take more time and attention. So I want to say no. I also don't want to say they're lazy. I don't want, I want to, but I this is one of the things I got to give them the benefit of the doubt on. They at one point in time, they're like, yo, we're bringing in so many new people to the, to Bungie, to work with Bungie, on Destiny and blah, blah, blah. And then they, talked about, well, we have this new project we're going to work on. So are they pulling resources from one game to the, is this, Mass Effect all over again? Is this, what was it, EA? Is it BioWare, whoever it was? Is this them? Is this the next company that's just crashing itself into the dirt by, bad management and bad, bad leadership, or and that's, or are they lazy, right? Which is, again, I could go either way. They're or they just don't care, because it works. It's, if we keep giving out, if we keep buying the DLCs and buying the charity things and merchandise and all of that, if it works. If it's not broke, don't fix it, right? And if we're not gonna, if the community cannot unite enough, because it is split between PvE and PvP, so the whole community would have to feel this way,
right? Well, and I think if I remember correctly, didn't they say that, I can't remember exactly when it was, because again, so many TWABs and updates and everything like that. I feel like at one moment they did say like they're having a team that's more focused on the PvP side of things, or they're bringing more people into it, right? To give PvP more of the love that a lot of people have been screaming for the last couple of years. And it doesn't feel like they've really done that to an extent, right? Like, we always hear like, oh, this and this and this and this is coming, and then we don't really see anything for months on end. Now, I am not saying that coding is easy and that making something like this is easy and it, they should be able to do it in lickety split. I 100% understand that all that stuff it can take a long time to do and everything, but it just feels like at this point, like we're so numb to the fact of hearing any news when it comes to stuff. We're just like, I'll believe it when I see it, type of thing. Would you agree with that, or would you?
Exactly. Yeah. This is the part where, to me, Ken, what do you think of the TWABs? Their actions speak louder than all of their words.
Yep.
That's what I think, and I can't. So even with this TWAB, like there are, I've been talking about some of the things that they've implemented, and I'm like, it seems good, but
And until we see it, until we actually see it in game working, hopefully with the way we're hoping that it's supposed to work and all that stuff, we're kind of a lot of players are kind of just like, I don't know, I just don't know. And I think one thing that I saw a lot of this, whether it was on Twitter or in YouTube comments or anything like that, was the fact of when they said that starting in Lightfall, they will have these new cosmetics available for a new competitive mode, which we'll get into here in just a second. And it's like, okay, why aren't these ready to go like when the new mode drops, essentially, right? Like why aren't these working together? Because is it meant so that you can drop the new mode and work out the kinks and then have the rewards? I don't know. In my personal opinion, I don't think that's gonna make people want to play the new mode, regardless of how either perfect it is or imperfect it is. It's like, what's the incentive to play that mode if not for some of those high, quote unquote high tier rewards, or something that, a lot of people want to keep coming back to week after week to play, essentially. I don't know. What are your thoughts? And I guess, let's actually do this. Let's first off, give me your thoughts on this new competitive mode, because this is going to be the last thing we'll talk about. Give me your thoughts on the new competitive mode, how the whole ranking system is and everything. And two, is it enough to just simply have this new mode and have to wait even longer still for these, cosmetic rewards and things like that? What are your personal thoughts on that?
Okay, so what do I think about the new competitive mode? Again, I go back to the incentive to play it. So they're going to take the new competitive mode and what they said they were going to do. They're going to condense 3 of the current game modes into 1 competitive mode, right? So like you said, where's the incentive to play it? So if we're going to get all 3 of these game modes, and I think it was Showdown, and 2 others. It's Showdown just right off the rip. Showdown, Rift, and something else. And I'm like, Showdown? Well, I don't really want to play that.
Right.
So why should I go play the game mode, right? So we're trying, again, they're trying to condense the pools to make them look bigger, but it's the overall player base that we have to get, if we have hundreds of thousands of people that play Destiny and only, a fraction of them are playing in PvP, how do we get them there? And just condensing the pool doesn't do that. However, I am always open for Bungie to try new things, as long as they don't seem like the dumbest thing to do. Example, don't tell me, guys, we understand you don't like 3-peaking in the game anymore. By the way, coming up this next weekend, we're gonna drop a sword for Trials of Osiris reward. That it's those times. It's like, I don't want you to try this now, but when they want to try things, I want them to try things. I don't want them to be so afraid of the community that they won't try new things. That will cripple games faster than anything else. It will kill games. Fortnite does things, and the player base is always up there. It's top of the directory since it came out on Twitch. People, still love to play it because there's always some new collab, new nonsense going on in the game. Whether you like it or hate it, it is successful, right? That is it. Whether you like or hate, certain millionaires in the world or billionaires in the world, they're successful. You can't argue that point, right? So I want them to try things. And the community, even myself included, have to give them enough benefit of the doubt, and patience to find out if stuff is going to work. But it's the patience that tests us too. Like, sometimes they take too long, like you said, we got we got the new competitive team and it's rolling, it's working. Where they at, but they don't have to talk to us. They don't have to answer us, right? They could be silent if it's safer for their mental health, or they just don't want to look at it, or it's just better because they know if they respond what's going to happen, right? Like, I get that.
Do you think that they're actually going to deliver on this, these new cosmetics and things like that? Or why aren't these here now, because they're dropping the competitive mode first? And then in the TWAB, they've simply said they have no details, they have no concept or anything, just simply saying we'll eventually get these cosmetic rewards and things like that, right? And I don't want to come off as someone who's negative. I feel like we have enough of that on the internet as it is and in videos, and I definitely myself, I'm guilty of doing this sometimes, but we have heard this time and time again, whether it's cosmetics or a new map or something like that, right? Or the fact that this team has grown now exponentially and only focusing on PvP. Like, and again, I know making maps are difficult and it takes time to make these. As someone who used to play Battlefield 4 back in the day, and they actually had this community thing where they made a community-based map, and we got to see the process of how long it takes. It took them a few months to make it, so I get that. But to make claims that their team is this size, they're going to do more for PvP, they want to have these cosmetics and have more maps. And that was said months and months to almost over a year ago, if not almost 2 years ago, it feels like. Maybe I'm a little off on the timing, but regardless, I feel like, again, actions speak louder than words. and their
Absolutely.
actions have not matched their words, not even to a close degree, at least in my thoughts.
Absolutely. And we, talking about the maps, they said they're bringing out 3 maps, and 2 of them are from D1. We don't even know if they're coming to Trials, right?
Right.
They'll come to PvP, and then the last new map they came out with was just PvP. So again, Trials, if there's any blood left in it, it's bleeding. It's been bleeding for a long time, right? So, and then they're going to have 1 new map, and who knows where that's going to go. The last map they came out with, for Iron Banner, I was like, this seems like it would be the concept again. We designed this map, exactly what I've been saying for a long time. It's like they listen to me, but they don't let me know, so I cannot have gratification in any way and be like, I told you guys, I swear they're in the walls.
Right.
So they designed that map and said, we're going to design this map, and depending on where you go, it's going to have a different feel. So they have I forget what the name is called, but they have the outside of the map where long range weaponry is going to be good. Then you have the middle lane and the left lane where you can have a mixture of other weapons, close range, medium range, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, wow, that. And then zone control, they started doing zone. I'm like, this is it, guys. I got so excited, and then it never showed up in Trials, unless this is the final weekend and they're just gonna drop it on me, and I'm gonna be like, I knew it, But it never showed up in Trials, and I think it would have been the perfect map for zone control, because zone control, Bungie wanted people to move around the map, but at the same time, this was the perfect time to test. Hey, how can we get the sandbox to shake up without having to constantly tinker with the weapons? Well, make the weapons less useful on certain maps and certain places, right? Or in certain places of the maps, right? So we don't even know where these maps are going. They just said 3 maps, 1's new, 2 are old. And that's why I say this is the lazy part, where it's like they do the minimum to get it in, because a lot of D1 maps, they weren't balanced at all. It just worked. And it worked because it was a different time. The game was new, fresh. Outside of Borderlands, it was the loot and shoot game of its time. Mm-hmm. So the population was just there. It worked because people were there. It was broken, it was unbalanced, but it worked because enough people were there to, ride the Titanic, right?
Right.
And now Titanic needs that help. So as far as why the cosmetics aren't here, like you said, there's enough negativity. And this is again because I want to see their actions, and I'm tired of hearing their words. This is their words that do this to me. My first initial thought is they just want to trickle out and make it look like more content's in the DLC than not.
Right.
That's it. And that's my fear, because I've listened to them too many times, and now I just roll my eyes and say, as long as Trials comes out on the weekend, I don't care. Can I do my stream? Yes. Leave me alone. That's it. That's where I'm at with Destiny, as much as I want to, fall back in love with the game that once was. So that's my first initial thoughts. And it could be tied to, they need a little more time, and the PvP guys, they already have the stuff ready, so it could be a good thing. They want to test something out. Who knows? I'm not going to hold it against them. But yeah, the first initial thought was a negative one. It's like, oh, they just want to trickle the content out and make it look like there's more than there is.
And I think a thing I've seen a lot also is just that, again, going back to how they've said online multiple times, and we're kind of just dull at this point when it comes to hearing that we have more people on the PvP team now, or they're only focusing on PvP. It almost feels like the moment they said that, though, and it's like, okay, we can finally start getting our hopes up a little bit. It was like over a year ago or something like that. All of a sudden now, it feels like members from that team, and again, we have no idea because we don't work at Bungie. We don't have any inside knowledge on this. But it feels like they have pulled some of those people back now and either put them on other projects or put them into the DLC after seeing how popular Witch Queen was and seeing how the reception from Lightfall that's coming out this upcoming February, or they put it on something completely different. We're not really sure, but it just feels like it's like, okay, you claim to have this giant team, or this quote unquote giant team. Where's the work being done with this, right? Or is it that the PvE side of things and the PvP side of things are button heads more than usual now, and that's leading to things just taking more time to either fixed or added in or solved or anything like that, it feels like.
Yeah, and because we don't develop the game, we've never developed a game on that scope or size, we can't say, well, the PvP side can get their stuff done, or the PvE side can get their stuff done,
Right.
and we can implement it in the game with or without PvP, right? Or
Right.
with or without it, messing up the other team, right? And outside of map design and mechanics for in PvP, it's map design essentially. Is from what I see it, it's the big thing is map design, deciding what you want to do with your game modes, tweaking them, and if you're going to do new game modes. Those are the 4 things that I don't see that PvE has anything to do with.
Right.
Just like if they're going to make a new raid with a new raid boss, the PvP side, I'm not saying they can't, obviously go to their coworkers and colleagues and be like, hey, you got any ideas for this? No, it's just that it neither should affect one side or the other on certain things. The weapons, because they're tied between both, that's where, that they're used in all of the game. So
Right.
that's where, so I don't think they're butting heads. We just don't know what they're doing, and it's not like it's not like we could just walk up to their headquarters when they'd be like, inspection, and be like, all right, on behalf of the people that are me and
Hey, if I
anyone
still
else
lived in
like-minded with
Seattle,
me
maybe I
that
could,
do or do
right?
not
Maybe
know,
I
we're
could.
inspecting you, so
All right. Well, I think regardless, though, I think, whether, we agree on a lot of things or there's some things we don't agree on, regardless, I think Bungie has to speak with their actions now, not with just their words. So,
yes.
I'm a little bit, still a tiny bit. I'm like that small. If you zoom in on the camera right now, I'm that small right now in terms of hope.
Where's Waldo? Where's
right?
Tallen?
Where's Waldo? Yeah, exactly. That's exactly what it is. But the hope, obviously, is that this does work out and things continue to move forward in a more positive way. If, however, again, though, they've said this stuff now. If by, I would say, I don't know, May at the latest next year, if nothing is, either added or we still have no updates on when things are even going to drop, whether it's an old map, a new map, or anything like that, I think at that point it's just going to be like, yeah, whatever. Anything you guys say after this, I'm not believing you with a shred at all. Like, it's not happening anymore. So,
Yes.
All right, Ken. Well, thank you so much for joining me in this lovely
1
video.
second.
Again, wanted to get your personal thoughts on this. Oh, do you want to say something more?
The Crucible lab changes.
Oh, yes. What are your personal thoughts on those? Go ahead.
So when I told you, it seemed like a 1 step forward, 1 step back to me. So it's like they stood in place. They want to condense all these, game modes, right, and get the pools more condensed. Of course, I keep repeating that word. I hate my lack of vocabulary sometimes, guys. I apologize. It's from what I read, and I could be misunderstanding this. You may be able to clarify. It was you get a 25% boost to Crucible reputation if you play the Crucible Labs game mode. So what's the point of condensing the other game modes and getting players to play there if you're just trying to pull people to this one spot when it's around because it's a reputation boost? You see they're pulling one pool from the other with incentive in one spot instead of everywhere.
Right.
So, this leads back to a side topic. I know a buddy that a lot of testing. And I asked him one day, I said, hey, have you worked on any project or live service game like Destiny where people work on the game and then they come home and play that stuff and they enjoy it? And he's like, there are some people that do that, but in my experience from all the companies I've worked with, and he wouldn't say specifics, he said a lot of people would just be like, when they clocked out, that was it. They were done. Like they didn't want to go home and play the game, right? And if it's true there, it's true at Bungie, right? To me, it's like we're testing Crucible Labs, and they really want us to test it more because they don't go home and get in the same environment we do, and then see the same problems if they only do it at work, right? In a very time limited, closed, environment outside of turning on the game and matchmaking across, the servers. So the Crucible lab change, it seems like we stood in place, or we took the step forward, like, hey, we're going to condense everything, but we want you all to play here. And now if the people that don't want to play Crucible labs because they don't like it, or whatever the reason, mostly because they don't like the game mode, they're going to suffer because we're pulling people away from you.
Right.
It doesn't make sense, right? So, and that's all I wanted to, clarify on that. Unless it was every time Crucible Labs is up, all game modes get a boost.
Right.
Which Okay, cool, because that means it's always up when Trials is not around, I believe.
Well, I think that's some good insight though that you gave us though with what your friend told you essentially, right? And I'm sure if anyone sees this video later on and there are people who have maybe done the same thing or with some degree, whether it's testing games or anything like that, you know, there are a lot of things I think that the PvP community finds, right? That Bungie is just like, wait, what the, huh? Right? And so it's a lot of reactions to things that are being found because, again, they don't play. A lot of the people who make the game don't play the game in just kind of a more quote unquote normal setting, right? You go home, you sit down on your couch or at your PC and you play the game, right? Which to an extent, I don't blame them. You know, it's kind of, you know, I always use this analogy where you don't eat where you work, essentially, right? Like I used to work a part-time job and I got sick and tired of the food there. So I get it. They don't want to do Destiny at home and do Destiny at work, right? 100% get that. But it does kind of show though at the same time that, hey, you know, how'd you guys not catch this type of thing? So,
yeah, for some of the more obvious things,
right.
Like, I the examples are, we fixed this map, there's no out of bounds, and then they pull it out, boom, and there's out of bounds instantly. It's like, it's the same out of bounds spots. It's like you did nothing.
Right, exactly. So I don't know. We'll have to wait and see. But hopefully the Crucible Labs stuff doesn't affect it too badly. But like you said, though, based on their words that they've said. All right, Ken. Well, thank you so much for joining me in this long video here. But we got a lot of good information, a lot of good insights when it comes to the side of PvP when it comes to Destiny 2. So again, everyone, make sure you check out Ken over on his own Twitch channel. And he also streams here on 5ix9ine as well. He is part of the 5ix9ine community. And he is one of our coworkers here. So make sure you check him out if you haven't already. And if you need to get carried in Trials, he's your man to do because he will get you through. He's helped me a lot as well get through and get some of those god rolls that I do have. But hopefully these changes do work out when it comes to the PvP side of Destiny. And unfortunately, we're just gonna have to wait and see. But like I said before, if their actions don't speak louder than their words, then I won't be really giving it 2 Fs anymore, essentially. I know that sounds all blunt and harsh, but after so many years of hearing this, I'm I'm numb to it, essentially. Ken, I'm sure you are as well. So
yeah, okay, honey, that's me to Bungie.
Okay, thanks. Yeah, I've heard that one before. So anyway, Ken, thank you so much for joining us, guys. Make sure you hit the like button as always and sub to the channel if you happen to be new. And again, check out all the links down below in the description like I mentioned beforehand, and we'll see you guys in the next one. Johnny.